next guest, Dr. VP Nair, Consultant Interventional Cardiologist at Mount Elizabeth Medical Center, to please present his keynote address.
Mr. Ninal Deshpande, Deputy High Commissioner of India, Mr. Lee Kuan Moon, Vice President UN Association Singapore, Mr. Amita Ali Jubaboy, Chairman of Gandhi Jayanthi, Mr. Atul Tamhurkar, Co-founder of GIIS, teachers and students of GIIS, President Harikrishnan and members of VP Singapore, friends, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for inviting me to speak on the UN Day of Peace. On this day, 2nd of October, we are also celebrating the 148th birthday of Mahatma Gandhi. Mahatma Gandhi is the greatest advocate of peace the world has ever seen. Despite the fact that it has been nearly 70 years since his death, his life was full of lessons that are very much still relevant in our society today. Employing non-violent civil disobedience, Gandhi led India to independence and inspired movements of civil rights and freedom across the world, including our Singapore. Let us ponder on some milestones in Gandhi's life that shaped his thinking and then relate these to useful lessons for the world today. Gandhi, as you know, was born and raised in a Hindu merchant family in Porbandar, Gujarat, India on 2nd of October 1869. In September 1888, at the age of 19, Gandhi set sail to England to pursue a degree in law. He successfully completed his degree at the Inner Temple and was called to the bar on 10th June 1891 at the age of 22. His 3 years as a law student were pivotal in shaping his philosophy on life. To beat the cold in London that he was not accustomed to, he started taking long brisk walks, something that he would keep doing till the end of his life. Living so far away from home and having his family's support from India made Gandhi very frugal in his spending. Upon completion of the Bharat law, he returned to India and practiced as a lawyer in Mumbai for 2 years. It was at this time that a representative of an Indian business firm in South Africa offered him a more rewarding job as an attorney in Durban. Gandhi arrived in Durban in 1893 to serve as a legal counsel to a merchant called Dada Abdullah. In June, Abdullah asked him to undertake a rail trip to Pretoria. Gandhi was seated in a first-class compartment as he had purchased a first-class ticket. A white man who entered the compartment summoned the white railway official who ordered the well-dressed Gandhi to remove himself to the non-first-class compartment, stating that coolies, a racist term for non-whites, were not permitted in the first-class compartment. Gandhi protested and produced his first-class ticket, but was forcefully thrown out of the railway coach together with his luggage. That first brush with racism in apartheid South Africa only strengthened Gandhi's resolve to fight injustice. It was in Durban that Gandhi started developing his political views. In 1896, he returned to India and enlisted support from some prominent Indian leaders to fight the oppressive South African rulers. Influenced by the teachings of the leading English art critic and prominent social thinker, John Ruskin's preaching of rustic life, I'm sure some of you might have read it, Gandhi set up a farm near Durban. Here he trained people on non-violent satyagraha or peaceful restraint, involving the peaceful violation of certain laws, mass courting of arrests, strikes and industrial action, spectacular marches, and nurtured an intolerable spirit which would fight repression without fear. He spent various periods in jail and eventually prevailed against the oppression of South African government. Gandhi left South Africa forever and returned to India. In July 1940, the year in which the First World War started, In 1915, he set about organizing peasants, farmers, and urban laborers to protest against excessive land tax and discrimination. Assuming leadership of the Indian National Congress, Gandhi led a nationwide campaign for various social causes and for achieving self-rule. Gandhi's vision of an independent India was based on religious pluralism. However, that was challenged in the early 1940s by a new Muslim nationalism, which was demanding a separate Muslim homeland carved out of India. Eventually, in August 47, Britain granted independence to India, but the British Indian Empire was partitioned into two dominions, the Hindu majority India and the Muslim majority Pakistan. As many displaced Hindus, Muslims, and Sikhs made crisscross on the way to the new lands, religious violence broke out, especially in Punjab and Bengal. Gandhi visited the affected areas, attempting to provide comfort. In the months following, he undertook several fasts unto death to stop the religious violence. The last of these, undertaken on 12th January 1948, he was 78, also had the indirect goal of persuading India to pay out some cash assets to Pakistan. Some Indians thought Gandhi was too accommodating to the Muslim demands. Among them was Nathuram Godse, who assassinated Gandhi on 30th January 48 by firing 2 bullets into his chest. Even at his deathbed, he requested to pardon his assassin. The life of Mahatma Gandhi is full of lessons that still inspire people across the world. He had a simple, frugal lifestyle, full of sacrifices for the great good. There are some quotations by Gandhi that I think, if taken to heart, can make a difference in the tumultuous world we live in today. Gandhi said, "You must not lose faith in humanity. Humanity is like an ocean. If a few drops of the ocean are dirty, the ocean does not become dirty." This is very relevant today when we look at all the cases of terrorism around the world. The terrorists carry out these heinous crimes in the name of religion, but they are anything but religious. They do not represent the vast majority of good, productive citizens of the world. We should not allow this branch of terrorists to tarnish the image of the vast majority of who practice the same faith as the terrorists do. Co-founder of Infosys, Mr. N.R. Narayanamurthy, whom I invited to Singapore very long ago with the Kopio, and he gave a lecture at our cultural center with 1,000 students. Once said, not at that point, that he has had 2 heroes. I hope you can guess the 2 heroes. Mahatma Gandhi and Lee Kuan Yew. Each of these transformed the world like never before. I would like myself to add that Gandhiji transformed India and other colonial rules nations into independent republics through peaceful and non-violent methods. And Lee Kuan Yew transformed a third world country to a prosperous multinational first-class world, Singapore. Former US President Barack Obama, who has often talked about the influence of Mahatma Gandhi on his life, described Gandhi as a rare gift to the world. Obama continued, "The spirit of Gandhi is very much alive in India today, and it remains a rare gift to the world." Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi said that his dream is to fulfill the dreams of Gandhiji and emphasized that the glow of freedom would reach every person in India. While Bill Gates converted knowledge into wealth and became the richest man in the world, Mahatma Gandhi applied eternal values to life without any material gain. One can choose the success of Bill Gates and adopt Gandhi's values to sustain it. Let me conclude by quoting the latest issue of The Lancet, the oldest and best-known medical journal, published on 16/9/17, 2 weeks ago, in Global Burden of Disease. 1 in 5 deaths worldwide in 2016 was associated with poor diets. 10 million people died of heart disease globally. Tobacco caused 7 million lung cancers, fatalities. Major depressive disorders ranked in the top 10 causes of death. But more important, 150,000 deaths were due to conflicted terrorism in 2016. This is a huge jump of 140% compared with a decade earlier. The rhetoric between President Donald Trump and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un continues unabated. Terrorist groups like ISIS, Al-Qaeda, Taliban, Boko Haram, Lashkar-e-Taiba, Hezbollah and Hamas are causing panic in the world. The medical problems can be solved to a large extent by diet control, exercise, meditation, as Gandhiji practiced. The philosophy of non-violence advocated by Gandhiji can help to prevent conflict, terrorism, jihadism, and fanaticism, to build a peaceful, prosperous, and relatively conflict-free world. So, on this day, the birthday of Mahatma Gandhi, let us reflect a little bit about his life and see how we can use his teachings to make our world a better place, to make our world a better place, as Michael Jackson said. This is very important for the younger generation, including the students, to understand and assimilate. Thank you very much. Dhanyawad. Shukriya. Vanakkam.
To invite our next guest, Dr. VP Nair, Consultant Interventional Cardiologist